My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. Once there was a mom who was very well-intentioned, and she brought her little daughter to Mass. She cautioned her about the need to be silent in church. And making sure that her little girl gets it, why we have to be silent in church, she asks her, "Sweetheart, do you know why we have to be quiet in church?" So the little girl is pensive. She looks around her inside the church. And she tells her mom, "Oh yes, Mom, we have to be silent in church because everyone is sleeping. We wouldn't want to wake them up and bother them." In our gospel today, Jesus gives us a wake-up call. He talks to us about the end times. And we learn from him that nothing around us will last. He points to the temple of Jerusalem and he says, "All that you see here, the days will come when there will not be left a stone upon another stone that will not be thrown down." And we can take that to mean as an image of the destruction of this world at the end times. So the listeners of Jesus were anxious to know what signs to look out for when the end times come. But the timing of that great event is God's secret. So Jesus warns us about following false prophets who claim that they know that the end is coming, because it's easy in times of distress or of fear to look for someone who can show us the way. But Jesus says there will be false prophets. But you, Jesus, are for us the way and the truth and the life. That's why we turn to you in this time of prayer for guidance. We are quite sure that you care about the world, Jesus. Even though this world suffers from disasters, we know that you are working so that it may end in triumph. Give us the energy to play our little part so that at the end we may triumph with you. Help us, Jesus, to remember that the future lies in your hands and that in your hands we are safe enough. We cannot predict when the end of the world will take place and how it would be like. We don't know either when we will sign off from this world. But we expect to meet you, Jesus, at the end of time, whether that end of time for us is when we die or when the end of the world will be upon us. We want to be prepared when we have to present ourselves before you. And knowing that this life has an expiration date, and knowing that also the way we live now determines the kind of life that we will have in the afterlife, well, all of that will give us life lessons. I remember reading a news article a few days ago about South Koreans who were faking their funerals in order to get life lessons. It's about a South Korean service that's offering free funerals, but only to the living. Since it opened in 2012, more than 25,000 people have participated in this mass, quote-unquote, living funeral services. So the participants donned shrouds, taking their own funeral portraits, writing their last testaments, and then lying inside a closed coffin for around 10 minutes. And those people were hoping to improve their lives by simulating their deaths. In fact, one of the participants said, once you become conscious of death and you experience it, you undertake a new approach to life. Actually, we can have an idea what our future life with God will be like by the kind of life that we live today. In the interim between this life and the next, Jesus gives us the high alerts to be serious in our Christian life and our responsibilities. So we need not waste precious time speculating when the world will end. But Jesus is urging us to live faithfully as Christians in the present. Imagine if we were to learn today that we had 1 year, just 1 year to live, that we would die on November 26, 2020. What changes would we make in our lives? How would we spend our time and our talents? Or what changes would we make in our priorities if we knew we would die 1 day from now? Well, I imagine if that's the case, the next 12 months would be the best year of our lives because we would spend our time doing worthwhile things. So today, Lord, we resolve to put order in our lives because we don't have time to do everything at once. Every day, we will have to draw up a list of priorities and to stick to it without rushing because rushing leads to mismanagement. But when we work according to a plan, perseveringly, day after day, that will always produce results. By planning our day, without being too rigid, we can give priority to what should take first place rather than whatever comes up at a given moment. And so we will prevent what seems urgent from replacing what is really important. Of course, it's not necessary to program everything. It's not always necessary to do that. But we should avoid the improvisation that leads to wasting time simply because we get involved in whatever happens during the day. When we work without any plan, we will go through life with many insecurities. We go through life confused and in doubt whether we're really doing what we ought to do or whether we're just being motivated by a surge of enthusiasm or whim. And if we are always with that insecurity, we can't put the necessary intensity in each task. It might help us to ask ourselves many times during the day, am I doing at this moment what I ought to be doing? Or before starting anything, to ask ourselves, what does God want of me in this? And with God's grace, let's do it. Let's invite God into the biggest challenges in our work. And let's try to live out our purpose at work, concentrating on matters that need our attention or maybe confronting something that requires a bit of effort and not leaving for later what we can do now. Overcoming our laziness, because laziness is a silent but effective virus which little by little could paralyze us if we do not keep it in check. So Jesus, help us to squeeze out all the divine meaning of each moment. We want to make use of all of our time so that the seconds don't escape us. Because it would be a great pity if, looking back over our lives, we were to see a long list of wasted opportunities. So Jesus, may we not present ourselves to you empty-handed at the end of our lives. We want to take seriously our responsibility to do good. And you know, Jesus, that we can only do so much. And after we have done all that we can, we want to give it all to you. And now we turn to our Mother Mary, the mother of Jesus and our mother. Mary, my mother, you have seen Jesus grow up. You have seen him make good use of the time that he spent among men. Teach us to spend our days serving him and all mankind. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.